So today what we're going to be doing is we're going to pick up where we left off last time, and we're going to fix some topology on the handle. We're going to, or the base, we're going to go ahead and just fix up how it is, add a few details that we may have missed, and then we'll move on from there. So we're starting with here. I know I said last night I was going to fix up some of this topology in here. So we're going to go ahead and do this. And something that I realized last night that I was not doing that I really should have been doing is you can hit this here, and then you can hit 5, and it puts you into X-ray mesh, which means it's easier to grab this mesh because you don't have to click on an edge, and you can still see through it. You can also make a material and change the transparency nodes, but why do that when you don't have to, right? So we're going to go ahead and I'm going to see what I can do with this here. Because I haven't really been looking at this since last night, but I thought about it. This topology, I could have 2 more running through there, but I want this to be flat the whole time. So this entire section might end up actually being flat, because I want all 4 corners of this this indent here to be flat. And I might put some controls or something on there. I don't know. I'm still deciding what to do there. But these vertices unnecessary. Move them over here. And I was actually wondering how far the distance is between here and here. Now I haven't actually scaled the weapon to what I want it to be here. You can see that it's like 1.4 meters maybe right now, and I only want it to be 0.7 meters. So later on I'm going to go ahead and scale that, but I don't want to do that right now because I don't want to fight with the image planes. Because then I'd have to go ahead and reline them all up when I did such a great job in Photoshop of doing that already. So that was a little mismanaged on my part at the start, but it's no big deal because we can just scale the whole object since the image planes are perfectly scaled together. Kind of undermines what I was saying about the importance of units, but you really should consider what units you're using. Alright, so we've pretty much got the shell here. I want to fix up some of the topology here. Got a tri and a quad in there. No big deal. We're going to put these in later. Hell, we might even do those as a normal map for the video game asset. They might be a little too pronounced for that. Let's do them as geometry. But this is starting to come together. I want to take these here, and I want to that sometimes the markup menu can be a blessing and a curse, but usually it's a blessing. Because I want, when I pull this vertex out in the x-axis, I want it to kind of flow like that. That's kind of how I want it to move. And then this. I usually listen to music while I'm working, which is something that's kind of important to me. Just picking some upbeat music, some We Can Do It music, for when you're working on this. Because sometimes it's so easy to just get frustrated and give up. But if you keep going, it's always worth it. Like, I don't care if it comes out exactly how you wanted it to. I don't care if the project actually goes through or not, or if it gets shelved. But at the end of the day, you're going to have something to show for it. And yes, going too far in a project can be bad, because you should have given up the project a long time ago. But you're always going to come out with something, and that's what's important. You're going to come out, especially if you're just getting into this, like I am, just getting into the into building my main portfolio. You want something to show for everything. And I'll give an example. On my website, or my Facebook page, I keep calling it a website, but it's not. On my website, I actually have a video game project that I was working on for the longest amount of time. And I kept going, and I wrote a bunch of programming for it. I wrote a bunch of... I made a bunch of assets. I built the walls and everything. But I was building it of the dorm room that I live in currently. And I realized at one point that being able to build a dorm room, yeah, that's great, but it's something that I could easily measure. And that's part of the reason why I did that, is because I could go out there into the hallway with my measuring tape and actually measure everything, which is, it's all right, but it's not how game environments work. I found the widths of the hallways were too small for a character to walk through, because your character isn't exactly how a human character is laid out. You have exemptions for certain purposes. You have everything lining up differently. So where I was going with that is I decided to just take the environment, and I'm going to make the environment what I get out of it. I'm going to leave the assets in there, duplicate them, throw them around. I can still have the walkthrough, but I'm not gonna waste more time and put a character in there like I was originally planning to. But the point is that I'm still gonna get something out of it. I did the work. I went ahead and I said, let's do it anyway. It looks like it's an issue, but if you give up on every project that you touch, you're never gonna finish anything. That's just logic. So even if you don't get what you wanted to get out of a project, keep going, because there will be a point where you can get something out of it. Alright, I was talking a little longer than I wanted to, because I think it is time to extrude this. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go into this view. Actually, first I'm going to select this because it'll be easier in this view. And grab all the faces, and then I'm going to extrude them out. And here I'm snapping to the grid, not a point, because there's no point there. I snap to the center of the grid. And there we go. Now what I want to do here is, because at the end we're going to be mirroring all this stuff. Actually, I'm going to leave the back face in there. I'm going to correct myself. I'm going to leave this back face in here, and the reason that I'm going to is because if I want to go back later and put an edge loop in here, it'll make it all the way around. If I delete these, it'll start messing with the topology. It won't go all the way around. And when it comes down to it, the amount of work required to do this both times is going to be this, that, and then delete. So no matter how many faces there, it's still going to be the same amount of effort sorry, when I go ahead and do that later. So now I've got the butt of my rifle. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to leave that how it is. See, I have two options here. And as you work with Maya and Max or any modeling tool, you learn something very important. And that is that there is almost an infinite way of doing everything. To create a square, I mean, even in the interface, there are a billion ways to do the exact same thing. And when you're modeling something, there are countless ways to model something and get the same result. Like when I said we're going to start with a polycube instead of with a plane. Both ways worked. In fact, the way that I used ended up turning into polyplane. So there are a lot of ways to get the same result, and that's the point. There are so many different routes you can take to do the same thing. So for instance here, what I'm wondering is, should I extrude these edges out to the right width of the rest of the barrel, and then extrude out again and work from there? Or should I undo what I just did, the extrude here, and just keep building this frame and then extrude that section out later since I have the cuts in there already, which I'm starting to think is going to be the right idea. I'm sorry I'm wasting time. Or create a separate object and try and mesh it in later. Like I said, it is a different manufactured component. In fact, you can see this is going to be manufactured, this is going to be manufactured, the grip will probably be manufactured separately, and then this will be manufactured separately, the rubber bands here will be manufactured separately, and the cartridge will be manufactured separately. And these heat sinks separate. So there are a lot of different manufacturing parts, but we're going to merge them all together. And I went over this in the first video, and I feel like I'm babbling a little bit at this point, but I'm just trying to stress something that's important. I think I'm going to do what I just said. I'm going to apologize for wasting a couple minutes in doing this early extrude, and I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to extrude these edges into the barrel. Got an edge there, right? Yep. So, sorry about that, but you gotta do what you gotta do. Take this vertex, I'm gonna merge it here. Line this up perfectly. Actually, I think I can start the curve there. See, there's actually material in this blank space here. It's because of the method of pre-production that I used. It makes it look like there isn't. So one thing that I'm going to warn you about when you're doing something like this, bringing a part back together, is you've got a border edge here. And you're going to want to make sure to merge these vertices together so that you don't have a border edge. If you did something like, this one's not going to be flat, so I'm going to make it flat for a second. Vertex. If I go like that, this is still a border edge. You have a double edge here. Say I've got two vertices sitting here. You're going to want to make sure to merge those vertices together. I don't know why I keep going down for face. It's not like me. It's summer. I'm getting used to sleeping more. So I'm going to go ahead and do this. Really, I don't know why I keep going down there. I'll extrude all these together. Oh, I'm going down because that's the action for extrude. I'm one step ahead of myself. And now, I don't know, sometimes these won't come tied together, so I'm just going to select one of them without dragging and make sure that they've linked together. What I did there was I turned off keep spacing. So that's actually a cool way to get to that markup menu. I can't remember if I showed you this in the first video, But if you hold down the tool that you want to change the tool settings for, then you click left click, you get the tool settings markup menu, which is a lot faster than opening up the tool settings and then changing the tool setting, blah, 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 blah. So I'm just going to line these up real quick. Not as quick as I'd like to, but hey, what you can do. I'm going to try and do it with the number of vertices that I have from those extrudes, because I don't want a lot of extra stuff here. I do want this actually to be flush with this one, because I think that's how it should look. So if it gets off a little bit, I'm not going to be terrified. But I want to get that smooth curve that I'm looking for. Or that steep curve at the end. Without having to make that one. That. I'm a little bit of a perfectionist. You'll probably notice that after a while, especially since I talk about topology all the time and I try and correct my topology as I go along. It's because I might be a little OCD and get frustrated at those kind of things. So bear with me. So now I believe this is all one piece here. I'm going to move this over just so I can see what piece I'm in here. Looks like this line is not lining up exactly how it's supposed to be. I'm just going to move this down. Are these lined up properly? I feel like an idiot if they're not, because I was talking about them being lined up properly for so long. Let's see if I can move this -X. Bottom is lining up. No, the bottom isn't lining up. Looks like the scale is off. Let's see if that is more appropriate. There we go. So, the scale was a little bit off. Oopsie daisy. But that's sometimes what you're going to have to deal with, and it's a good thing to see someone make that mistake. It's just a matter of not lining them up perfectly in Photoshop. I'm going to start throwing in this curve here. Need more towards the steeper end of a curve. And I'm just going to scale these because I want them to be the same. Now my artwork is not entirely perfect, but as long as I get one curve the same, then on the weapon, they're both going to be the same. And since it is a manufactured component, I want it to look very intentional, symmetrical. Because machines are intentional and symmetrical. Usually, I don't know. Most of the machines I work with have some kind of symmetry to them. My speakers, I can see them right now. They're symmetrical on both sides. My monitor, my computer, the keyboard tray even, the mouse. Technology is symmetrical. At least in computing technologies. So now what I'm going to go ahead and do, I do have this cut in here. So I'm thinking about when I extrude this out, what topology am I going to need? I just say topology way too much. I'm sorry. I'm going to need some topology on the front end here in the x-axis, but I think I'm going to worry about that later and just have the four corners pull in for the circle. So here, for this little cut in here, I'm going to just do some simple topology here. Bam, bam. It's going to come over here and end in there. And I'm pretty sure I still have maintain component spacing off, but I can check just by doing that. And see, that's in the last video I told you about that that movement without touching the bar. So useful, and that is a perfect example of how useful it really is. It's because I was so far away, but I wanted to snap to the one over here. So that came in handy. Here, I'm just going to snap to that. Let's see, I didn't even have to see this, the handles. I didn't even need to see them. Move this in here to reduce the polygons. A little bit of poly reduction never hurt anybody. Sure it has. These, now you might be wondering, should I cut these in? No, I'm not going to cut those in yet, at least, because the component, what's going to happen is it's going to be a separate piece here, and these ones are able to eject off of it. So I want to build these ones based on these, and then just cut the bottom half, do a little fixing, and then have the longer ones, and still have them as separate components. And I've considered changing the weapons so that these ones can also come off. But I like the idea that they're permanently wrapped around here. So I'm still working on that idea. However, I do need to cut out these spaces here. So I'm going to use the cut faces tool again. And like I said, it's really not my favorite tool, but for this project, it's coming in handy. And you can see when I built this, I intentionally put that ending right here at the same spot so that I could use the same edge. You don't have to really be thinking about your modeling because you can model anything, but if you want to help yourself out, why not? Why not? Never ask yourself why. Always ask yourself why not. So here, should I cut up, have the handle as a separate object? Or, see, I think if I'm going to do those other rubber components as as separate objects, I should do all of them as separate objects, because I'm going to maintain some consistency here. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to cut this again. You can see that I'm adding extra topology while I'm fixing some as I go. I might be wasting a little bit of time, but it helps me have good good edge flow for right now. And I heart good edge flow. This one's a little forward, or back. So let's move it there, so I can get the edge where I want it. These vertices should really be over here. See, I'm correcting some of the topology while not correcting other pieces of topology. It's just where I think that I'm going to need the edge flow better. And if you don't know about edge flow, that's something you should learn. Some people who are experienced with edge flow might be like, oh, Michael, you have terrible edge flow at certain parts. Like I said, yes, at certain parts, I'm not paying attention to it because I intend to fix it later. And I don't think that this bad edge flow in here is going to interrupt me because there's nothing else to cut out here. There's nothing else I'm going to deal with here on that object. So if I have a little bit of bad topology, I'm not going to cry over it. So now, since I am making these separate objects, for now, I should correct this topology and bring these over here. I'm really debating because later I am going to have like the pop-off sections. I'm thinking about having like little screws here that are underneath the weapon casing, but I'm thinking for the game model, which is what I'm going to be focusing on first, while I am making some compromises in here between the game model and the other model. I like that curve. I'm thinking something like that. The game model should have that in texture. That can be something we can throw on screws and little wires moving in there in Mudbox. That's no problem. So I'm going to go ahead and leave that how it is. I'm going to merge this vertice. I don't know why I have these here. I don't need them. In fact, I don't need those at all. And then I can have this running down here. I have a quad instead of those triangles. And quads are your friend. Quads and tries, mainly quads. Tries will betray you sometimes. Not always a good friend. So let's see where I am. I'm at 25 minutes. What can I do from here that'll end within an hour? I've got this done. I'm doing this as a separate piece. I'm doing these as separate pieces. I think I've actually got the primary weapon done for now. So I want to fix up some of this topology. Oh, shit. This is going to be a different extrusion length. See, here's the barrel, and it comes in a little bit here. So I'm going to have to cut that in. Sorry, I'm used to hopping back into perspective. I'm used to, in my job, we don't use... Is there actually an edge there already? It's right on the line. Okay. So there is an edge there. It's just hard to see right because it's on the grid line. Let's see if I turn the grid off. There it is. See, I just instinctively, I instinctively stretch about every half hour. So, since these I'm going to do in texture, it's kind of odd for me to be saying that I'm going to do these in texture later when these are closer to the front of the barrel, but because I'm going to have a bunch of separate objects there, I'm going to have some detail to the mesh. And these mesh pieces are going to be detailed. And note that these are going to be covering up the blandness of this mesh down here. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to merge all these over because I've made up my mind. Okay, apparently when I'm running this video software, it puts a little lag in my markup menu, which I'm not used to having. So you'll have to excuse me if I'm doing that sometimes. In fact, I should probably just lean more on this Y key than using the markup menu every time. I don't like how many are there, but that's not a problem because they're unnecessary. And so here's where I'm actually gonna change this topology in here. So I want to bring these over here because you want the face value of the of your faces to be as large as possible when you can. And because, number one, you don't want to lose faces. You don't want to have faces so small that you can't really find them anymore. They get lost. They're taking up 0 matte value when you get into projecting, or near 0 matte value. When it's within like the threshold that if you performed vertex merge on the entire object that they disappear, that's when you have a problem with that. This is a separate extrusion level here. That's fine. That's great. I believe it's the same length here to here, from here to here. No, this is, so the back part is by far the skinniest, but but this should have enough weight, and the cartridge here should have enough weight to balance out the weapon. You can see that I'm still thinking in terms of the practicality of this object, even when I'm modeling it, and even when I'm building it, because when you're modeling and you're constantly thinking about something, other ideas will pop into your head, and you'll say, "Oh, well, this is a problem. This is a problem." And it's part of the creation process. It's not a bad thing that you didn't think of this earlier. It's that you've been thinking in more practical terms, because when someone builds a prototype for an actual product, they send it to the manufacturing company and they say, well, our machines can't handle this. This isn't something that we can do. And while I don't have necessarily a lot of experience in manufacturing, I'll tell you that that's indeed the truth. So I'm going to move this out to the barrel extrusion length, or the handle extrusion length, because that's the smallest significant extrusion. Because you don't want to extrude in. Extruding in is terrible. I hate it, because you start getting not when you extrude in on all sides like this here. It's completely. But if I were to extrude this in, I would get an extra face here that I don't want. So always be thinking extrude out. You always want to extrude out. That's a very important lesson that I learned, because I made an object that I had to extrude in a lot. I was building the pool, and it's got like this intertwined wood material, and it took me 5 times as long as it should have because I was extruding in. So that's kind of that also summarizes like what this tutorial is all about. It's me sharing my own mistakes, and hopefully you're learning from them. Yeah, I get this lag in my markup menu. It's starting to bother me. I might have to change some of the software I use, because I use it's called ScreenFlow. But ScreenFlow doesn't give me a preview of my camera, so when I'm talking to this screen here, I can't see myself. So I use this Willing Webcam. That was just some trial software that I found, and Willing Webcam actually takes up the preview that's not actually capturing anything. Takes up more processing power than the actual thing itself, than the screen recording and capturing software. Why did it do poly reduce? That's so not what I told it to do. So now I've got this pulled in. And I'm not really concerned about this when I mirror the polygon, because that's something that's really easy to get rid of. Just delete those faces, fill hole. I want to add as much as I can over here. So now, what's the next furthest one out, or the next step out? Well, the next step out here, according to my slightly misleading shape here, is this extrusion for this length here. So I'm going to grab these, going to extrude these out. I just grabbed the wrong side. Yeah, I just grabbed the wrong side. It's fine, we're good. And I'm selecting in perspective this time because I don't want to select through to these polygons that I decided to leave there for edge flow. Yeah, there's nothing really to say there. And now when I extrude this main barrel section out, the tedious selection, reminds me kind of working in Photoshop. It's half about making the selection than actually doing anything with the selection. I could have done like expand selection from this little chamber in here, but I decided not to. I'm going to extrude that. Pull out to this length here. And now I'm going to make sure that, see, this face now, because I extruded out, this face isn't inside the polygon. It's stretched from outside it. I don't know if I'm explaining that really well, but it makes sense. Trust me, or don't trust me. Up to you. Now looking at this in 3D, I'm thinking that I want to pull these in a little bit more. And that's a decision that I can make. I'm going to go against what my pre-visualization art. This was the last one that I did. It wasn't the best one. I'm going to actually pull it into here, which looks like I've got this line in here. I'm not sure. I made this artwork a while ago. It was at least a couple months ago. So forgive me if I don't remember exactly everything in my artwork. These lines are for extending that. And this line here okay. This is this back section. And then this front section is skinnier. So that's fine. I think, though, I want to undo pulling that out. I'm going to get my selection, then I'm going to create a quick select set because I don't want to grab that again. So create sets, quick select set, front, large, barrel. I'm going to hit add to shelf, and that's going to throw it up here. so I don't have to find that selection later. And this extrude face is not this one. That's right. So I'm going to move these faces in to here so that I can extrude these next sections out to here. And then I can grab that set, extrude those out to here. Actually, I think that was actually pretty good. There we go. Now we got the front looking a little bigger. I think that was my intent there. Grab that face and these vertices. Move them over just to keep them in a straight line. There we go. That's looking a little better. I can already tell this topology is going to be bad for beveling this edge. I'm not going to worry about that right now. I will get to it. And I just realized that I extruded this on the wrong side. What I did there was I just expanded the selection so it would grab those around the edges. I use that a lot in my job for grabbing windows, like the edges around a window. By the way, speaking of windows, you like my little ghetto fix here? That's my hand. Ghetto fix for the camera. Window. Just threw a trash bag up there. Fantastic. So now we're looking pretty good. We've got we can throw this on so we can see our wireframe here. Looking good. It's at this point that still got a little bit left. What do I want to do here? I think I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to make the cartridge. And for that, I'm going to do another polycube. No, I'm a liar. I'm going to do a polyplane. So that was my mistake last time. I hold down shift because I accidentally held down shift because it gives me a perfect square. I do that a lot at my work, but I don't need it here. I'm wondering how far into the barrel this is supposed to go, because I don't have any artwork on that. Went into Vertex face mode there. So this is where I have to think concept again. I have to say well, how far is this coming in? I'm going to move this over here. How far should this be in? How far does it have to be in to not interfere with that? And then I have to think, well, how much material is actually being carried in here? How much plasma? I'm going to move this out so I can hold a little more plasma in here. And I want to measure this and see how big this is. Not even a centimeter, I believe I set the mode to. That's why it's important to have, another reason why it's important. So it's not even a centimeter large. So a centimeter, here's my measuring tape, is that big. Between my fingernails. Where is it? That's not very big for a weapon. It's being held 0.7. It's that big. That's an itsy bitsy bit of carbon. Or an itsy bitsy bit of this control panel or whatever. So I have two options. I can either make it like a touchscreen panel, which I think is actually the accurate way to go for this, because it is a futuristic weapon, and we have touchscreens everywhere currently. So a futuristic weapon would obviously have at least pressure capacitive. I think that's it. Capacitive, the one that doesn't give haptic feedback because it's actually a physical button. So I can even make that a little bit. Actually, I like that at about 0.1. And it's only going to get smaller when we shrink the weapon. So let's move this out here. Snap with that. And then we're going to move it in. We're going to move it in a little bit further than we think we have to. And the reason why is because we don't want any Z fighting going on. So we've got that there. And now let's make our cartridge. Cutting in circles. That is a question that a lot of people have difficulty with. They want to know how do I cut in a circle into a mesh. So I'm going to go ahead and tell you the best way that I use. Now you could do a Boolean intersect as long as you make sure that you put lines here and here. But then you're cleaning up topology for a while and blah, 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 blah. So what I like to do is I'm going to make this polygon live, and then I'm going to make a polycylinder. Stretch it out here to the size that I want. I don't need any of these, so I'm going to delete them. And I'm going to make this polygon not live anymore. Now, I'm going to turn on edges so I can see where I'm going. When I deleted those, I was being stupid. First, go in here and select the number that you want. I'm going to say between 10 and 12. 10 is usually going to be good. But there's some games, like if you've ever played Nuclear Dawn, it's another indie game, and you can, if you look at the poles, like the telephone poles, they look like they're like 9 divisions, 9, 10 divisions, and you can kind of see where the texture starts cut off and what exactly they're doing. And of course, someone who develops games is going to notice this stuff a lot easier than someone who's not looking for it, but it kind of upsets me a little bit. Given that this is such a small detail in here, I'm going to go ahead and say that 10 is going to be a good number, because cylinders, circles, all that good stuff take a lot of tries. Like you can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 10 on just the cap. And where you really get a lot of tries is anytime you subdivide this. Say it curves, it's a pipe or something. Pipes are expensive. So keep that in mind. I'm going to go ahead and cut this face. And I'm going to do 2 more cuts here. Here and here. Come on, there we go. I'm definitely going to have to reevaluate my software that I use here. Cut all day long. So now I've got some edges to work with here. If you don't do this, you're going to have an issue with having a hole in your mesh that you can't cut to, because you can't end on a hole and you can't start on a hole. Your topology starts getting screwed up. You put one edge here and it tries to think that it's 2 different faces because this isn't a border edge. Put some lines in there, edges in there. Put some edges in there so that you have something to work with. Otherwise, you're going to regret it. Ah, this lag is killing me. So now I'm going to put this in here. I'm going to put this in here. Hit Y. Here, here, Y. Actually, I should have just kept going on those, but here, here, enter. And I think I've got edges here, yep. And now I'm going to take these edges, 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm going to add one division to all of them, and then I'm going to snap it to that polygon, which is why last time I got rid of these faces, because I don't want it to be changing height. I want this to center pivot and then be perfectly aligned with that, because I don't want to be moving it in another axis when it's just a plane. And then I can just hold down V, middle mouse click, snap them to where I want them. And voila, I have a perfect circle. Just going to make sure that these are exactly where I want them. And I have a circle there, which I can now cut in. I'm going to select that template, I'm going to delete it. I'm going to grab these faces, I'm going to delete them. And now I have a circle cut in here that has the proper, that has some structure that it needs. See, that lag is kind of frustrating. I hate it when it tries to snap to other objects. I should really hide the other objects here. It's a bad decision. Four, 4, 4, 4, 2, 3, 4, 5. Jeez. It's like I have to turtle. Go turtle slow to get that to work. Which is not how it should be. You should be able to just issue a gesture, is what they call them. And there we have a circle cut into this object. See, it opens up that menu. Extrude the clip. Now I'm seeing maybe it's a little too large, because I have to remember that I'm going to be doubling all this stuff. For right now, I'm going to leave it how it is. I don't want to go over an hour again like I did on the first video. That's why I keep checking. I wish that it gave me like a record duration up there. We've got like 8 minutes left. You can make a trigger in that amount of time. That's fine. So the trigger I'm going to make is a separate object because it's going to be animated. It's going to be animated separately. It's going to be parented, so it can have its own movement. But other than that, I'm do another polyplane here. So like here would be where the screw is that runs through it to allow you to squeeze. Is not interfering with this component up here or any of these tubes or anything. These tubes I'm going to assume like pop down here and curl around, or they pop down here and curl into this section here. So I'm just going to add some divisions here. Pull this up. Edge loop, pull this vertex down, You can see I used edge loop there instead of cut faces tool. Because I swear this is not my favorite tool in the world. It's an awful tool, actually, when you think about it. It's prone to so many tragedies. I say tragedies, but it's really not a tragedy. And the trigger is very small. I'm not concerned about all the detail in the world. But again, enough that I can go ahead and reuse this model for an animation and build on it for animation. So up here. It's a weird looking trigger, isn't it? Go adding a bunch of divisions, something I said I wasn't gonna put a lot of detail on, just to get a slightly better curve. Go ahead, I'm going to add one more here. The trigger's not that big on a gun, so I think that's large enough. If not too large. That's about right for half a trigger. Right. All right. So there, we've got this model coming together. Not too shabby. All right. So that's going to be the end of this model, or this tutorial. Next time we'll probably go into putting the pipes I'm going to do after it's all extruded. This section here, I think I'll do after it's all extruded as well, and just pull out at the top. So next we're going to tackle these components here, these rubber pieces. Like the grip, the heat sinks, and then we'll pull it out, and if we have time we'll start throwing these in. I'll show you a cool trick for extruding on a curve, which is, I believe, new to 2013, or maybe not. But I'm going to pause it because I'm at 1 hour and 15 seconds, and I have a little bit to cut out. So, see you next time.